Hey everyone. So, as you know, I shared my birth story last week. I say I, but you guys know that Alex was here too. And it was so special to share with you the process of that day and how absolutely chaotic it was, but also magical and memorable and just intimate and special. It was all of the things. And I was really glad that Alex was here to give his perspective on it because, the dad perspective is unique. And honestly, when you're in labor, and for those of you who are mamas who have or mamas who want to, you don't really remember aspects of the day. I mean, there were literal moments, if you listen to the birth story, where, it felt like I blacked out and I had to like have him fill the gap. So it was beautiful to have him there. And he did such an incredible job. And it was just really great to share with you. And so many of you have reached out on Instagram and on social media to tell me your similar stories. I had no idea how many women have experienced a failed epidural anesthetic situation. And it's really one, how come they don't tell y'all? Right? You would think more people would talk about it. Not talked about, but it's unifying. I've really enjoyed hearing from you in the DMs and on social about your unique stories and what's similar and what's not. And I just love this about womankind, right? And how no matter what, we share this thing. It's a real unifier. It doesn't matter, your race, your ethnicity, your city, where you're from, your income status, the process of motherhood while carrying is something that we all really share. And I'm just very honored and privileged to be part of that. So I did want to chat a little bit more about pregnancy over 40, right? Which is something that and we're going to keep it just really, really candid here. It's something that's treated in the medical world. And I think that there's a societal stigma that goes along with it, where it is treated as an unusual, strange, strange meaning like, oh wow, like surprise strange, and obviously in the medical world, geriatric pregnancy, or advanced maternal age, like this languaging is used very, very often. And I think that we've kind of as society just absorbed and accepted it. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about one, I want to tell you everything if you are not just an over 40 mama, to help validate maybe some of your experience, but I also want to speak to anyone who's listening who's in their 20s or early to mid 30s or even late 30s and considering getting pregnant after 40. I just want to speak into you, speak literal life into your body, because I don't know if there is enough messaging that is counteracting what we have come to believe and accept as being the truth around advanced maternal pregnancies, But before I do all that, you guys know me and my caveats. The first caveat I want to give, my first little disclaimer, is one, every body is different. And so you do need to trust and listen to and work under the advisement of a doctor. That's like the smart thing to do no matter what, right? I had a great doctor team that I almost say designed my pregnancy experience to make sure I was as healthy as I could be and that my recovery went well. And I will talk more about my postpartum recovery in a separate chat. But I will talk a little bit about it here because it is a legitimate concern when you're over 40. The other thing is I also want to let you know that you know who I am when it comes to families and babies and children. I adopted 3 girls prior to carrying my 4th daughter, Josie. And I just want you to know that I'm a big believer that families are made in different ways. I am aware of the close connection, desire, personal drive, biological need at times, or at least our hormones are telling us this, to carry your own child. Like I'm aware that, for some of us, that is an undeniable thing that you feel in your soul you have to do. But I also want to say that, and I don't think I've said this anywhere, and it's kind of a tough thing to say out loud, but you worry sometimes that if you have adopted children, will you feel differently than, carrying your children? Or, if you use a surrogate, will that feel weird? As a mother who's done kind of all of it, I can tell you right now, it's different, meaning having carried Josie inside me, that was a different experience. But I can honestly tell you, I really do love my children the same. Like I really thought it like, would it be different? Would it be like 1% different? Nope. I would murder for them. They're all my babies. Like to the point where there were several points during my pregnancy, which, we're going to be talking about that today. Several points during my pregnancy where I remember saying to Alex, I probably could have used a surrogate for this because, and, I'll let you know all the sort of like health reasons and things I was going through. But I was like, I probably could have used a surrogate for this experience because as much as I love carrying her in me, some of these other factors that I'm dealing with, I'm not sure if it outweighs, especially because you can just bring me a baby. And I was like, I know that that's the case because I have my adopted babies. And I thought maybe after I give birth, I'll feel differently. No, like I am blessed to have four incredible daughters. Josephine is an increase above all of that. It was an honor and a privilege to carry her within my body. It was a magical, awe-inducing, you know, opportunity that has transformed so much about my being. But make no mistake, I love my babies the same. So I just say that to let you know all families are valid. So whatever journey you may be on or need to go on in order to create the family you desire, I just want to let you know that that is honored and respected and valuable and legitimate. And you are still very much a mother in every way, shape, and form. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk actual pregnancy. So I've shared before in my journey that because I was approaching over 40, I was 39, that I started at a fertility clinic. I wanted to go in there and learn about my numbers, my hormones, how my egg reserve, right? So using those words for those of you who don't know, it's basically just looking at your lady bits and saying like how things working down there. That was really my focus to start. Was I just wanted data, which shouldn't surprise you, right? Nicole Walters wants her numbers and all that. So that was my first place. So for those of you who are saying to yourself, whether you're in partnership or not, right? So I was in partnership. I knew, and Alex knew that we wanted a child. And that was something that we spoke about. And I actually shared, Alex isn't here. I don't think he would care that I'm sharing this, but when we may have shared it before, but I didn't care how we had a child. And a lot of that is because I have pre-cooked babies, right? That I love with my life. All right. So for you say to Alex, I was like, look, we can adopt, we can, use the surrogate. I don't really care. And for Alex, he wanted a more traditional partnership. For him, he really wanted to experience the, I guess, unifying nature of creation, I guess. He also wanted to go through the pregnancy process. Like he's a traditionalist in that way, like where he really loves, memory creation and like he's just that type of guy. Like he's like, I just want to hold your belly, and like he's just that type of guy, and I love him for it. So he wanted a traditional pregnancy, and I shared with him right out of the gate that and I feel a little emotional about it, I guess, because it was tough for me because Alex has been so supportive and kind during my divorce process. He is such a good stepfather, and he's really stood in the gaps, when we had challenges for her transition, he was just there, and he still is, and the only thing he's ever asked for was one, he wanted a wedding, which we could talk up, I think I talked about a little bit with the wedding process before. I'm not big on weddings, if I do something, I'm gonna do it right. Like I want it to be nice, but ultimately I'm like, I want you, we could share vows in an elevator and I don't care, but he wanted a wedding, and he's had a vision for like his family and all that. And no regrets. So glad we did it. It was amazing. But same thing, like I don't care how you bring me a baby. I just love me some babies. Like bring them to me, So I was very open to a surrogate also because, as I've discussed before, in other chats with Alex, like I'm the breadwinner in our household, and so the idea of being sort of away from work during maternity, plus, when you have kids, your expenses increase and your income decreases. So that was, I shouldn't say your income guarantees decreases, but if you have to take maternity leave, depending on the structure of the work you do, you may see a bit of an increase, but you definitely will have an expense increase between medical deductibles because it costs money to have the baby, as well as supplies, maybe childcare if that's something that you need to tap into. So you will take on more cost. So just being aware of that, I was kind of like, gosh, do I really want to be out of work? My health, you know, I've talked in the past about having health struggles. So I was very concerned about things like when they say you're advanced maternal age, you know, higher risk and complications around blood pressure, around just joint pain, you know, things that were happening to me anyways because I was an old goose. I was worried would get worse because I, you know, had taken on pregnancy, you know, and then I also was a little scared of delivery. I don't know if people say that enough, but, you know, I was just really scared with Black maternal mortality rates and things like hemorrhaging, you know, which is where you continue to bleed after the baby's out, you know, to having a stroke or a blood clot, just like all the things. I was just worried about that. And I already have, you know, three girls that I am very much responsible for, and we have a family. So I just, you know, all those things were of concerns to me. But I also knew that they weren't guarantees. I also knew the God that I served and what I would receive and what I would not receive in my life. And I also knew that, you know, a lot of the outcomes of what you do in life are based on what you bring into it. So if I could plan accordingly, if I could figure it out, we could make it work. So that being said, that we decided, yes, we would kind of explore our data to see what our options are. So we went ahead and started with going to the doctor to get more info. So for a lot of you, whether you're in partnership or not, you can go and seek out that information. You can go and find out what your egg reserve is, which is like how many eggs you're born with, all the eggs you'll ever have in your life, right? So you know, as you get older, you lose eggs. They, you know, through your monthly, you know, you also lose them just naturally, right? So knowing that, I wanted to know how many eggs I had. And then outside of that, granted, you only need one though, right? But you want it to be like a good, fresh, juicy, plump one, right? Because that makes for the best baby. We also wanted to make sure that Alex was fertile and didn't have any issues. And we had nothing to indicate that there would be. As a matter of fact, his numbers came back exceptionally high, which is when I tell you, in the land of postpartum, when I am not trying to get pregnant again, I literally am like, blessed. I'm so grateful to have such a virile, fertile husband. However, if he so much as sneezes on me, I could get pregnant again. So I'm like, you need to stay away from me, sir. But but aside from that, we also wanted to know kind of what our options were. You know, like, should we just be harvesting an egg? Should we, you know, be trying to create an embryo and then implanting that embryo for me to carry, you know, what are our options? Because there are so many options to having a baby. So get informed. So we went in and we did like all of our blood work, and we had like an ultrasound, and we looked at my like counts, you know, and all that. And it came back that I had, and I shared this in a previous podcast, and it came back that I had like 5 eggs that could be fertilized essentially. Not that my entire egg reserve was gone, but that every single time I was having a monthly, that they were seeing basically 5 active eggs that could potentially turn into a child, if I'm explaining this correctly. And that the numbers that they were looking for were at least like 8 or more. So 5 was considered like diminished ovarian reserve, meaning like you aren't working with a lot of eggs. And then they also said that if you're younger, like in your 20s, you're looking at like 20 plus, you know. Now, I say all of this to let you know that this is without medication. This is without any stimulation. This is without anything being done. This is just my regular old lady body doing its regular old lady things at 39. And again, I'm using all the language of what society says. We will get to what your truth can be, right? So knowing that that was what I was working with, just without anything, they were like, well, you can use hormonal drugs. They have like special injections that stimulate you to release more eggs. You can't make more, but to release more. So they were like, look, you may end up having a great number. We may be in good shape to take out plenty of eggs and, you know, combine them with the sperm and get some great embryos and put those in you. But man, like I tell you, me and Alex, like I left that appointment in tears because I was like, so this won't be easy for us, or this won't, you know, there were just a lot of things I was accepting as my truth that you know, the data's there, you know, but it doesn't have to be your truth, right? You know, you always have more options than you know. And I just say that to anyone right now who may be in this journey, kind of wondering what it looks like for you, particularly. And I really, where my heart is for the women who are 35 right now or 38 and you haven't found your partner yet, or you are committed to your career right now, or you know you want a family, but you know that may not be till you're 41 or 42. I just want you to hear me when I say, it's not that you shouldn't be looking into things now, maybe freezing or storing eggs. Like you can take methods to like, you know, up your chances. And there are things that I wish I'd done long ago to like make sure I was good, but God design that exactly the way, he needed to. But I will tell you, I just want you to hear my story and have hope and recognize that, you know, a baby can be at the end of your journey no matter what. Like, hear me on that. Your baby could be at the end of your journey no matter what. So, saying that, we decided to step back and just try. We were like, well, let's just try and see what happens, because we hadn't even tried to make a baby. And then in trying, within 2 weeks after that appointment, I was pregnant. Now, I say I was pregnant within 2 weeks. I did not know I was pregnant until 7 week mark, but based on conception age, 2 weeks later, I'd gotten pregnant. Now, I say all that to say I recognize the blessing that is. I know that's not the case for most people. I fully acknowledge the God work that happened, and the privilege that is. But I also want to let you know that a lot of times it takes 6 months to a year before you can see results when you're over the age of 35. So just letting you know that part. So let's get to the pregnancy process. This is something I haven't really discussed much. I want you to let you know that I've talked before about how I did not enjoy pregnancy. And I mean that. I really mean that. Being pregnant is not for me. I am comfortable saying that it is not for everyone. And I don't think people say that enough. Here are the reasons why it's not for me, and some of the things you may want to consider if you are considering delaying the pregnancy process to when it's right for you. And a lot of these things are the types of things that I think actually matter when you are advanced maternal age. They're not the things that I think matter based on what society tells you. So society tells you you're advanced maternal age, your body can't hack it, you're so old, you're gonna die, high risk, yada, yada. When I tell you, so many of those things can be controlled by medicine. If you have the right doctor, the right OB, the right supportive team, and you do your research, which you are far more equipped to do over 35, okay? Like, you will be fine. Like, you will find the right people, you will be fine, right? You also tend to be more financially secure, which gives you more options. When I tell you how grateful I am that I had money to be able to do the things to make myself comfortable during this pregnancy, and again, that is an over 35 thing. Also, over 35, I have a great partner. If I'd been pregnant in my early 20s, one, I wasn't married to the right person for me, but also when I tell you the partnership I'm in was one that nurtured, supported, and aided the pregnancy process. So here are some of the ways that it helped with that. Emotionally, I was so stressed about money and my career. I have worked so hard to build the business, the brand, and the revenue that I have right now, and I have never had to take off months, from that. I just haven't. I did take off about a month or two when I became really ill during some of the transition time frame from my divorce. And I mean, I physically could not work. And the idea of that being extended and or worse due to pregnancy, because pregnancy is the big roll the dice, right? You have no idea how it's going to go for you. Are you going to be a person who has nausea the whole time? Are you going to be a person who has really bad back pain? Are you going to be a person who, because of the pregnancy and being older and the strain on the baby, it needs to go on bed rest for the last 3 months? You just don't know. And once you're in it, you're in it. And especially if you're the type of mom that I am, you're going to do whatever you need to do for your baby. So I was just very worried about what that would look like, not to mention postpartum. I just didn't want to deal with any postpartum depression. I did not want to deal with sleeplessness, because that hits differently when you are over 40. We need and like our sleep, right? So that was a factor. I mean, just a lot of these things that kind of take you out of the game were lending themselves to me being worried about all the things I built. I just had a book that came out that I want to continue to promote. I, obviously come and chat with you guys on this podcast regularly, and I wanted to be here to do that. So, that was an emotional point for me that I'm really grateful I had a partner who, one, is optimistic, two, lends me his belief, and three, speaks life into me. And when I tell you, that was a game changer for me during the pregnancy process, being with the right person who stood in the gaps in ways before I could even state them, rubs my feet every night, just really was there for me, from cravings to, well, I can't tell you how many times he helped me get off the couch. Even after I delivered, and I'm fine, he still goes to help me off the couch because he's like, oh, right, I forget that you can get yourself up, stuff like that. I still take it though, right? Please give me pregnancy treatment for the rest of my life. I love it, right? But, it's just having the right partner is a must. It is such a must. And shout out to all the single moms I'm just going to take a minute and just say this because I was saying this to Alex yesterday. Shout out to all the single moms, especially single moms of multiple children. I don't know how you do it. I've always admired you. Now realizing both recovery, newborn, and having other children, uh, superhero. Listen, don't let anybody ever tell you that you are less than. You are beyond what people could expect. Amazing. Single moms are incredible. Also, not a shout out. What's the opposite of a shout out? Super thumbs down to all the men who abandon their babies. Okay. What is the opposite of a shout out? That. Okay. Men who do not show up for your wives. Men who do not participate, whether it's financially. I don't care if you're on child support or not. You better run that check. Babies are expensive. Kids are expensive. Men who do not support their wives through pregnancy or do not show up for their wives. I understand that you guys may not understand what their bodies are going through or what the process is to be a parent or to have children, but y'all are trash. Big bowl of trash. Like a lot of these women, I feel it on a deeper level, like men who do not communicate with their children, who do not check in with their children, who write off their children, who do not support women who are raising their children, who do not respect women who are raising their children. I don't care what that woman says to you. If she is a good mom and you are not respecting her, you are a big bowl of trash. If you do not pick them up, if you do not, come visit them, if you do not go out of your way to support them, if you are not interested, listen, I could go on all day. Men who do not show up for their children through thick and thin, no matter what, and put their stuff aside in order to do so are trash, because having gone through this process, it is a two-person job. It is a two-person job. Like it is designed so that you can barely function because someone else is tapping in. So having a partner is deeply helpful. Now that partner can look like, a sister, a mama, a grandma, but we are not meant to do this alone by design. It is difficult to do. It's why God requires that two people or two parts are necessary to create the baby. And that is also why, to maintain and grow the baby, you have that support. So there's that. But the reason why I didn't like pregnancy, and a thing that I think we don't talk about with advanced maternal age, is obviously being taken out of your career. You likely have one when you're older. Two, you may have other older children. So, it's balancing sort of that need. If you have a kid who's a teenager and then you've got a newborn, like these are very different needs, and they're both demanding and important and critical, and figuring out how to balance that can be challenging. And then obviously all the health concerns, the idea that I would have a baby and possibly go right into perimenopause is something that is very real. All the hormonal changes, and then some of the superficial things that I don't think enough people say. My body's already changing, in so many ways because it's aging, but I've worked really hard to lose, weight and to keep that weight off through the years. It's been years at this point, and the idea that I was putting myself in a position where I would gain that weight back and possibly the other health risks that go along with it, like diabetes or, high cholesterol or high blood pressure, that was frightening to me, especially because I dealt with so many health concerns recently. I also liked the way I looked, I have a very stable weight now and I enjoy my appearance the way it is. My partner enjoys my appearance. So I did not enjoy the idea that that could be a factor, or having to do the work on the back end to get my body back to the way that I would like it to look. And I'm using that languaging very specifically because I also don't want anyone to feel obligated to have to create or have a certain body after pregnancy. Like whatever body you have is incredible. I mean, I look at my stretch marks that I have and I'm so thankful because there are women who pray that they could get pregnant to have stretch marks, so they are a permanent reminder of the blessing that God and the privilege that God gave me. I don't have that type of worry about that part of looking. My man loves the way I look, but I say all that to let you know that, it was a concern for me just in terms of like work and how I fit in clothing and, just feeling comfortable with my movement and all that. So, those are all concerns that I had, about being 40 and pregnant. And then obviously Black maternal rate. I just wanted to live, I just didn't want to be in a situation where I wouldn't make it. Now, here are the things that I want you to think about as someone who is approaching 40, over 35, in your 40s. Here are all the reasons why it is easily one of the best times to get pregnant. One, 40 does not 40 the way 40 used to 40. You hear me? 40 does not 40 the way 40 used to 40. We don't look the same. Listen, some of these 21-year-olds are out here looking older than us between all of the work they're getting under their face and all the makeup that they're wearing on their face. They out here looking older. Okay. So 40 is not the 40 it used to be, right? I always try to use the example of, if you watch the show Golden Girls and you watch the show Sex in the City, those women were considered the same age. Like the characters as written, like they were the same age. So it looks different now. So that's the first part. The second part is, when you are over 35, approaching 40, your confidence, your mindset, your voice is so much better developed to advocate for yourself and your child. When I tell you, you listen to my birth story, there are whole points there where I was able to say, look, this is not what I want to do. I'm not comfortable with this. We need to go another route. That is 40-year-old Nicole. That is not 22-year-old Nicole, who would have sat in that room and felt like everyone around me was an auntie or a mom or a grandmom, and I should listen to their advisement versus having the confidence in knowing what was right for myself. Now, some of you already have that character. Applause, good for you. But whether or not you do, a lot of that comes with age, that wisdom. Also, finances. At an older age, whether or not you are financially lucrative or stable, you tend to be more responsible and aware. I am grateful not just for afterwards while I have my baby, the options I have financially, but also I'm grateful that while I was in it, if there was a day where I needed a vacation or a massage or a chiropractor appointment or something that isn't typically covered, every single craving, paying for Uber, whatever, I had the funds to do it. These are not things, that I would have been able to do in my early 20s. And so I'm very grateful because I did not have to compromise in areas of comfort due to my pregnancy. Even things like when I worked until, I would say, maybe a month before delivery, maybe 3 weeks. So well into the 9-month range. And a lot of that was due to the fact that I could do things for my comfort. So if I didn't want to drive, I could call a driver. If I needed to travel, well, I didn't travel obviously in the last couple months because you can't get on a plane, you're not allowed. But up until the point where I was able to fly, literally, I think like a week before I wasn't able to fly anymore, I flew. I was able to get on a plane and pay for first class because that was the comfort that I needed, better hotel rooms. If there was a pillow I needed or a tool I needed or certain maternity item that I desired, I could get that. So those are all the things that were, hugely helpful. Also the ability to research, and gain information is something that's wisdom that comes with time. And when I tell you, I feel so informed as a mother, even though there are things I run into every day where I'm like, didn't see that coming, I feel way more informed. Also, community. So naturally, by default, as you age, you collect more people, right? Hopefully you deepen the relationships with the ones that you have. I have way more community. So when and all my friends are done with their babies. So when I tell you I'm the hip new mama on the block and I have nothing but a bunch of 40 to 50-year-old women that are my closest, dearest, nearest friends who are like, bring me that baby, right? So a lot of you who, are on social and are internet aunties, all of y'all are like, we have a new baby, and it's the greatest feeling because it feels like I'm raising this last little one. Josie is being raised in a collective. It truly feels like there's a village there. And that is something really exclusive to that 35 to 40 window. Because when you have a baby when you're earlier, yes, you may have besties and friends who are there and who are supportive, but everybody's kind of doing their own life, and a lot of people don't even know what you're going through. When I tell you, I had nothing but between y'all and, my in real life friends, I literally was able to have someone I could go to at any point in time and say, what onesies do I need? Is this the right tool? Should I get this Aquaphor? Like blah, 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 and Aquaphor goes on everything. Like put that bad boy on your taxes and you'll be better, like truly, like it is unlike anything I've ever done, even building a business, because again, having a baby is a unifying element. So there are definitely some big things to consider in the bucket of, oh my gosh, I'm over 40. Do I want to have a baby? But there's so many overwhelming things that we do not talk about as a society that work in your favor. And I say all that to let you know, if you're wondering about my pregnancy, I had no complications. All through my pregnancy, I did not have any issues. My doctor prescribed a low dose aspirin to help manage my high blood pressure. So if that's something you want to talk about with your doctor, if you're considering it, that was huge to make sure I did not post any high blood pressure readings until it was time for me to deliver. And then I had a small spike, but even then I never entered the dangerous territory. And we thank God for that. I did not gain excess weight. So I'll talk about that more in my postpartum episode, because when I think about postpartum, I think that that may have been more of a factor than I knew. And I want to give more context around that because I also don't want anyone feeling badly about weight gain because I understand how sensitive our bodies are. And I also know that in our society, for some reason, people talk about women's bodies a lot. They talk about our weight gain or weight loss as if that is indicative of who we are or something. It's just a very weird thing. And I'm not like I've never been a body or beauty expert, and I don't profit off that. I don't sell body products. I don't sell supplements, but I know people can get very judgmental and weird. So I do want to talk about that in that's me next week's episode about postpartum. But I do want to let you know I didn't experience excess weight gain, and I think that that really helped me with my movement, my flexibility, my ability to continue to work longer. You know, I really think that was a huge factor for me. My confidence, I think I felt better, even though I still had my oh my gosh, this belly, days, and especially towards the end, I was like, oh, but I really do think that helped me feel good. And overall, I think that I just had a confidence in what I was doing that could only be lent to itself with the maturity that comes with being a older woman, you know? So I say all of this to you to say that, if you are considering having a child, whether it is another child or your first child, or you're feeling like you can't focus on where you are in life because you have to choose between this thing or the other, I want to tell you that the very worst thing that I experienced about having a baby over 40 was that I couldn't get Botox. And my husband knows my real face now. So, all that being said, do it if you want to do it. Get your research, go for it, because you know what? We are the new 30.